Trowa Barton, son of Dakin Barton, heir to the Barton family, and the original pilot of the Gundam Heavy Arms. In all three of these roles, he was intending to carry out the original Operation Meteor so that the colonies could rule over Earth. However, this was not meant to be. Fearing for his family still on Earth, a mechanic whose name history has forgotten took things into his own hands.
Just watch me. I'll proceed with Operation Meteor if I must do so myself.
Now you've done it.
There were only two witnesses, Dr. S, the designer of the Gundam, and another mechanic. This man had no name, no past, no future, no nothing. As such, he had no problem taking over the role of the recently deceased Trowa Barton. And today we're having a look at one of the stories of the past of this man that we now all know as Trowa Barton. In the early AC 180s, a wagon of a traveling circus is caught between the crossfire between rebels and the Alliance. Try as they might to dodge the stray bullets, the wagon was eventually hit, killing both parents and separating the two children on board. One of them, the girl named Catherine, would again be found by the traveling circus, but the boy named Triton would be less fortunate. They were unable to find him, and he would be forced to take care of himself. Without anyone, he would somehow manage until he was eventually adopted by mercenaries. Potentially the same men who had caused his misery in the first place. Due to a head injury sustained during the incident, he had lost his memory, but at the very least he now had food and a home. And by AC 190, he had become an excellent mobile suit pilot. In a vicious cycle of irony, he had now become a mercenary, fighting alongside the rebels himself. And it was during one of these battles as a mercenary that he met a girl named Midi-Un. Feeling a connection to her, he decided to help her. When she asked him why, he simply stated that they were the same, and that they also needed some kitchen help. As thanks, she gave him a crucifix as a good luck charm. Meanwhile though, the mercenaries were discussing their next moves. Some of them felt that joining the Alliance was their best option. The rebels were beginning to lose the war, and they had heard that the Alliance paid pretty well. Their leader, on the other hand, was unconvinced. If they turned coat, the war wouldn't last much longer, leaving them without a job. And for him, it was therefore essential that this war would continue as long as possible. And they were going to set a trap that would ensure that it would. On the road to their new battlefield then, they would pass by a traveling circus. A sight that felt oddly nostalgic to Trowa, but he brushed it off. After all, he had been a soldier ever since the day he'd been born. There was no way this circus could have had anything to do with him. Midi then simply continued playing on her portable game, and unbeknownst to both of them, someone from the circus had also spotted them. Eventually, the mercenaries arrived on the location of their ambush, but rather than the hunter, they would become the hunted. Some of the proponents of joining the Alliance had done just that, and they were getting ready to carry out their new orders, annihilating the rebels. And to make things easier for them, the mercenary captain's gun jammed, almost sealing his fate had it not been for Trowa. Fighting like a lion, he was able to dispose of the traitors and save his captain. Normally, you would expect a captain to be thankful to Trowa, and then telling him that he did a good job getting them out of that tight spot, but no. He berated Trowa for killing the men who betrayed them. The men who were about to kill them without a second thought. The men that he was about to wipe out with a smile on his face had his gun not jammed. And then this marvel of a human being had the gall to say that Trowa wasn't human because he fought back against the men about to kill them. The man who had apparently no qualms about turning a little kid into a mobile suit pilot, and the same man who wanted this war to continue as long as possible so that they could still get that money. He also told Trowa that they were totally not traitors and that there was no way they would have told the Alliance about their little ambush. It must be nice living in your own little fantasy world. Rather than apologizing, Trowa understandably stood his ground, insisting that he did nothing wrong by killing the enemy before they killed him. A very reasonable stance, might I add. Back at the mercenary base then, Trowa had a chat with Midi, and it was at this moment that he noticed something. She seemed to be holding on to that pocket gaming system a bit too much. And what happened next would confirm this feeling. A massive Alliance counterattack on the Rebel base. This time, there would be no heroics from Trowa to save his thankless comrades. With the situation being as hopeless as it was, all he could save was Midi, the one who had caused this mess in the first place. Still, she had now become a victim of the Alliance too. The remaining rebels and mercenaries tried to fight for what they were worth, but it was all in vain. Almost as soon as the battle had begun, it was over, leaving behind nothing but scrap metal and dead bodies. Amongst that, the body of his captain. And after everything Trowa had went through, he still felt a connection to him, and he raised his gun at Midi. She told him that the gaming system was indeed a transmitter, and that she needed to do it to feed her 3 little brothers and a sick father. The crucifix then that she gave Trowa was also a transmitter, but it would seem that she actually gave that to Trowa to save him. While she said that she hated him, during her time spent with him, she had actually come to love him. So I believe that that crucifix might have served as an identifier for her, so that she wouldn't be killed on accident during the attack on the base. And therefore by giving it to Trowa, she would ensure that the one she loved would make it out alive. Still, she hated how he had said that they were alike. She has a name, a past, and a family, things that she needed to protect at all costs, even if it meant doing underhanded things that led to the deaths of countless of people. Instead, she wanted to be like Trowa, a man who's empty and not held down by anything. But the grass is always greener on the other side. Trowa said that she at least still had a home to go back to. He shot her transmitters and left, in search of his own place to go home to. A quest that would eventually see him going into space and joining the Barton Foundation as a mechanic. And that is the story of Trowa and his mercenary pals. I definitely feel that this is one of the better stories from the Episode 0 manga, but it's way too short. Especially his relationship with Midi seems to accelerate faster than the Tall Geese. Over the course of a few pages, Midi goes from meeting Trowa, to hating him, to loving him, to eventually betraying him, and then separating with him. This feels like something that could have been a great drama story if it had been a full manga rather than a single chapter. Instead of the Alliance immediately bum-rushing the rebels or doing something else that would make it way too obvious they had an inside man, they could have instead used Midi to slowly turn the tide, and then the growing tension and suspicion of a spy amongst them would have made for a great suspense story. Similar to how when the Allies during World War II cracked the German Enigma code, they tried to be as subtle as they could with the information they got so that the Germans wouldn't realize that they had actually cracked it. As for the captain of the mercenaries then, I think the author wanted him to come across as this sympathetic, battle-hardened veteran that cares a lot about his friends even after they betrayed him. But as I made abundantly clear during the video, he just felt like a complete hypocrite to me. And to be honest, I do also think that that is a fitting way of portraying him because the dude was betrayed by his close comrades. So while I don't necessarily think that that is what the author wanted, I did like the captain as a character as a hypocritical asshole. But let me know what you all thought about this story from episode 0. I know it'll never happen, but I would love to see this thing expanded upon as a short OVA. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.